Hi there, this is Rick. I hope everyone's having a great day. Okay, this is a kind of a rough little video. This is on how to make a self-build motorhome. And what's happened is I've actually discovered some old photographs that I forgot I had that I took stage by stage of the self-build motor van when I was building it. Now these pictures are about 8 years old, so they're a little bit rough. They were taken with I think a 1 megapixel camera, so they're a little bit grainy, but hopefully you're going to get the idea. What I'll do is I'll go through the photos with you, and I'll talk you through them. Now I should say right from the start, I actually did 3 versions in the van. Here's a picture of the van I have today. It's exactly the same van, but the interiors I've changed 3 times. So what I've got right now is the kind of the white leather look, and that's the one I sort of settled on after building the previous 2 versions. And the photographs that I've got are from the very first version, and I just have a couple of photographs I think from the second version. So now the point of this video I think is just to give anybody, if they've got a van and they want to turn it into a self-build, this is just to give you a very, very basic rough idea of the very basics of what I did, and how I constructed the interior. So without further ado, let's move on and take a look at these photographs. Now the very first thing I did for the van was I cut a hole in the back quarter panel, and that was purely to add the mains hookup plug. And there it is on the van, finished with the actual the plug in place. Now the next thing I did was I coated the whole of the inside of the van with a kind of grey felt. Now this was a quite thick felt that I discovered at a garden centre, and they were selling it in their aquatic department, for ponds and things. And they sold it off the roll. I think the roll was about quite a few feet long. It was about 12 feet long, I think. And they sold it by the metre. And what it does, the idea is that you put it on the ground before you put your pond liner on top. It was kind of a liner. And the beauty of this grey felt was I could kind of wallpaper it onto the panels, because the van had been panelled, so it had the the wooden panels all around it. And I was able to literally use, I think it was wallpaper paste and a bit of PVA glue kind of mixed together, and I sort of wallpapered it on. But the beauty of it is it actually went sort of moulded to the shape of the van, so I can actually put this glue on like the metal of the door you can see here on the picture, and just kind of persuaded this grey felt with my hands, and it moulded to the contours of the door, so it was really good in that respect. Now I later decided adding the grey felt was actually a bad idea, because if you scratched it, if you just kind of ran your fingers over it, all this dust and particles and stuff would fall off. And I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos. And it sort of became this dust magnet. And every time you brushed your hand against it or banged it, you could see all this dust falling off it. So I don't think it was particularly making a healthy environment to be in. So in the end, I got rid of it, and I actually covered, as you'll see on the end pictures, I covered everything with this leatherette. So once I had covered the interior of the van, the first thing I did was I built the basic structure for the bathroom, and it's literally, as you see there, it's just 3 walls all held together with little L-shaped brackets, and it's made of Conti board, which is pretty heavy, but it was a lot cheaper than the proper stuff you're supposed to use, which is something called Voringer board. Which is a kind of a hard board, but it's lightweight, and but that stuff is incredibly expensive. But Conti board was absolutely fine. It's just basically like a chipboard that's been laminated with whatever pattern that you want. You can also see in this picture the 2 horizontal bars, and that's basically the start of the Galley Kitchen area. So I'm going to support a work surface on there, on which I'm going to have a sink and a cooker, and in the front of it there's going to be cupboard doors. Here's another angle of the little bathroom, and again I changed that in the second design. I actually moved the door to the other side because the door where it was kind of getting in the way of everything, and it was difficult to open. Okay, here's the sort of Galley Kitchen area as after I sort of built it, and you can see the three main cupboard doors in place there. You can also see the zig unit, which is that black thing on the end, and the two gold coloured grills above and below it were absolutely completely unnecessary and completely ridiculous, but obviously I didn't know that at the time. Because I thought it might get hot and need some sort of ventilation, but as it turns out it was fine. And you can actually see behind the zig unit there I've got the RCD circuit breaker, and that connects to the mains connector that I put in earlier on. You saw me drilling the holes in the side. That's the RCD circuit breaker, I think it's RCD. And that obviously, any mains electric goes into that before it then gets distributed to the van. Here's another angle, and you can see from there I've got, I hadn't changed the front seats. The van came with twin front seats, and what I've since done is I replaced those twin front seats with a single driver's seat. Now the beauty of this type of van is they sell it in both left and right hand drive, which means you can get a standard driver's seat and it will bolt straight onto the passenger side, which of course means you've then got the walk-through from the cab into the back. Here's another angle of the Galley Kitchen thing, and obviously the bathroom as well. Now this is an interesting view. This is looking down from where the work surface is going to be. Again, you can see the circuit breaker there, and you can also see the 25 litre or the jerry can size water tank, and that's my main water tank. And then if you look carefully, you can just see at the bottom of the picture the zig unit, or the back of the zig unit, and that obviously the zig unit takes care of all of the 12 volt wiring for the van, and I've got another video on that. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video. Now here's an important one. This is the gas box. This was an insurance requirement, and notice that there's a hole in the bottom of it with a grey pipe that goes all the way down and through out into the bottom of the van, and leading to the outside, and that's because gas is heavier than air. So if you get a gas leak, obviously it's going to go down instead of up. And as you can see, it's also steel lined. This is a box made of MDF, and I lined it with 16 gauge steel all around, and screwed those into place. And the idea behind the steel lining is it's supposed to be able to contain the gas cylinder within a fire without allowing the fire to get to it within a certain amount of time. So this is one I made myself. You can obviously buy these as well, ready-made, but it wasn't too difficult to make. In fact, the hardest thing was cutting the steel, because I had this whopping great big sheet of steel, and had to cut that. I got it in there in the end. I can't remember quite how I did it. I think it was with a jigsaw. But you must have a gas bottle box, and it must have a dropout hole, and that is a requirement for the insurance. Okay, so once I'd completed the Galley Kitchen, you can see on the right hand side there, I've actually got the work surface in place and the cooker. I've also got the sink there, and it's got like a lift up lid on it, and I'll show you some photographs in a minute of the sink lid lifting up and down. And so once I had that in place, then what I started work on was the seating area. And as you can see, all it is just a very raw, very rough skeleton sort of shape, and that I've made up of just lots of little bits of wood all screwed together. Where the spare wheel is, that's exactly where it was going to live. So I had to build everything around the spare wheel, because that was the only place I could fit it. Here's another angle, and the idea is that this would jut out across the front of the sliding door, and there would actually be a cupboard door that you could access with the sliding door open. So here's a picture of the cupboard door open. Now once I built the main structure, obviously it was then just a case of putting the bases down, the seating area, and that of course was again Conti board. Now the biggest mistake with using so much Conti board was obviously the weight. It was extremely heavy, and in my subsequent versions I actually cut back quite a lot on the Conti board, and I went back down to a kind of a skeleton type system, which I'll show you the photographs of shortly. So there's pretty much the finished seat box, and obviously you can see little cupboards in underneath, and that was ideal for storing away your bedding and your duvets and all sorts of other bits and bobs. I think I also had a big speaker. I think that was a Kef Coda, so it was quite a posh speaker that I stuck into the actual seat box. And because the seat box was quite big and stuffed full of things like, you know, duvets and things, it made a really good bass box. So I had this incredible bass, which was quite fun. So there we have the almost the finished thing. You know, don't forget, this was the Mark 1 version. This wasn't the one I've got today, but that was the very first almost like experimental layout, because to be honest, I was making it up as I was going along. I didn't really quite sort of know what I was doing, and the subsequent changes that I made, they were much more you know, all of the things that I learned by using this one, I sort of incorporated into the subsequent models. So this is what it looks like, sort of fully loaded up and ready to go from the back doors, and this is what it looks like from inside looking out of the back doors. The cushions, I just got pieces of foam, and I think I went out to a shop somewhere and bought a really cheap duvet set, and just I think I glued the duvet to the foam from the underside, so I ended up with these mattresses. The whole thing was done on a very, very low budget, and that was the idea. I wanted to do this conversion with very, very little money spent, and I think in total with absolutely everything, I don't think I spent more than about £1,800 on the very first model, you know, on the actual conversion. Now this is the sink. If you look at the kitchen bit, this is the sink with the lid down, and if you look at this next picture, this is the sink with the lid up. So it's nicely hidden away, and obviously when you're not using the sink, the lid would become quite valuable workspace. So that was about it for the first version. I did try attaching a table. I had this little table attachment thing, and I had this really rubbishy little table, because the idea for the insurance is you're supposed to have a place where two people can sit and eat, and I had this detachable table which it served its purpose, but frankly it was rubbish. So on the version I've got now, I actually use an island table leg, which I'll hopefully I don't think I've got photographs of it, but yeah, I'm sure you know what an island table leg is if you're looking into this sort of thing. This is the van getting its second window put in, and I just basically went to my nephew's house for this, and he helped me, and that's we cut a big hole in the side, put in the window, and there's my nephew putting in the rubber beam thing that goes around the window and sort of holds it all in place. Now I'm hoping later this year to replace that window because it's starting to go rusty. And what I'm hoping to do is to take that window completely out and replace it with a stick-on one. You can get like a flush fit self-adhesive one. I can't remember what they're called. They've got a special name. But if I do that, obviously I'm going to make a video on that as I do it. So this is where I worked on the Mark II version, and what I did was I put a full back at the back of the van. And I put in again, it was based on a skeleton system, but I completely rebuilt the seat boxes to make a better bed, because the first bed, well frankly it was rubbish. It was really thin, and it was just really hard to use as a bed. So I redesigned the seat boxes so that they could have a little table which would then sink down and sit down in the bed and actually make up a bed that way, and that was quite successful. Now one of the mistakes again I had here, or not necessarily a mistake, but one of the problems I had here was, firstly I used material, very nice material, but when you're sort of taking the van surfing and things like that, the material was constantly getting wet and covered in sand, and it got really grubby. And because the material was made, or the seat covers were made with, they just had a sheet of very, very thin MDF on the base of a piece of foam, and then the material was stretched over the foam and then stapled to the base. You couldn't actually take them off and wash them, so they got grubby very, very quickly, and they were really hard to keep clean. And again, with this version I still had the grey foam all over the van, and it kind of gave it this very sort of quite dark, dingy look. It made it feel much smaller. So what I did, I mean, it was okay. I kind of lived with it for a couple of years, but then a couple of years ago I did this, and what I did was I completely removed all of the grey felt, which was, like I say, it made it feel really sort of dingy, and it picked up all the dirt, and I replaced everything with this white vinyl leatherette. Now I bought a whole roll of leatherette off eBay. I think it cost about £120, delivered from Germany, and basically that one roll saw me through just about for everything. And I did literally floor, well, not obviously the floor, but everything, right, you know, all the walls, the ceiling, and all the seats, all the seat covers, everything were covered in this leatherette, including the kitchen doors. And I think the end result, it looked pretty good. And this is the design I've got today. Now here's a picture. You can see the rear door panel. You can see how it was attached. I just used these like big white caps that you screw on, and each panel was basically covered with the leatherette and then put in place. Again, you can see the seat boxes. Each seat box, each face, each square face of the seat box is a single panel, which I took into the house, covered with leatherette, and the leatherette has got a thin, I think, half-inch thickness of foam underneath it, and then, you know, the leatherette is attached to it, and then the whole thing is attached to each panel of the seat box. So that's it. That's my little photo montage of how to make a motorhome, you know, a self-built motorhome. I hope that was useful. I hope that gave you some ideas if you're kind of thinking about this kind of thing. Like I say, the very, very first version that I did, I winged it. I mean, I had a few sketches and ideas and stuff, but most of it I just kind of made it up as I went along. And to be honest, it all just kind of fell into place, you know. I mean, you can spend, you know, forever planning these things out. And I know when I do my next one, and I will do another one, I will probably spend a lot of time, but I want to go for bunk beds in the new one, but that's a whole other video. Yeah, it's really straightforward to do. I mean, it's, you know, it's time consuming. It does take a lot of time to do, and you'll come across a few little stumbling blocks, but on the whole, this is actually a very, very straightforward thing to do, and I would recommend anybody to just kind of have a go. Like I said, the only thing that you really need to kind of be extra careful about, obviously, is sort of cutting holes in the van. If you're going to put a window in and things like that, you've got to be right with those, or you just sort of have them done yourself, you know, have them done by the manufacturer. But for most other things, there's quite a margin for error, and you can always, you know, because you're just working in little bits of wood, it's pretty straightforward if you do mess up to just kind of do bits again, and it's kind of not the end of the world. So I really would recommend, if you're pondering this kind of thing, then have a go for it. Anyway, that's it. This video's been quite long. Didn't intend it to be this long, but hopefully that's useful to whoever needs it to be useful. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you in the next video.